Hi, Shadowhunters!
I know I'm late. I'm a day late, and I'm actually like a couple minutes late because Ashley got off track. I was rewatching the pilot episode. So, I know I'm late, so I'm going to go share this link a couple places, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So, I'm talking about the Shadowhunters premiere. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about episode 2, just a little bit, because I know a lot of people haven't seen it, so I'll try to keep spoilers to a minimum. I'm going to try to address some of the problems a lot of the fans have had with this book series, considering I know there have been some serious questions about the series and people getting really angry about certain things, and I'm just going to try and, there we go, address those. Yes, by the way, I am wearing a cow onesie because I didn't feel like changing, so yes, I look ridiculous, I'm aware. So, I have a lot of people that have messaged me. I have a lot of things that people want to talk about. You can send me messages while we're going. Like I said, I'm going and sharing this a couple of places, so that's going to take a couple seconds. But, just some stuff to start with. I really liked the first episodes. I like a lot of the changes. I really understand a lot of the changes they've made. I'm really excited to see where they go with this season, considering some of the things they've already revealed, some of the things that they haven't revealed yet. I'm really excited for a lot of this. And I know there are a lot of other people in the fandom who are excited too. Like I said, Ashley is... Why? I hate my internet sometimes. But so if you guys have questions or like stuff that you didn't like in the pilot or something, and I don't address it, you can definitely put messages, and I should have chat turned on so you should be able to message me while we're talking. So I have a whole list of things that I've seen as the most common problems with Shadowhunters. And I know there have been a lot of problems that I've seen multiple places, and so I'm going to talk about them once I finally get this shared. This should be up on my Twitter, but I'm going to go share it on my Tumblr because I know some people aren't watching it. I'm also recording on my computer in case my phone fails, so there's that too. So I have a whole list of things that I'm going to be talking about from Shadowhunters and things that people didn't like, kind of starting small with just some of the smaller changes, and then talking about some of the other things that weren't necessarily changes, but just things people didn't really like from the story. So, I know one of the first things that caused a lot of uproar was the Institute. A lot of people were angry about the Institute being really high-tech, and also not just being really high-tech, but also there being a lot of Shadowhunters there. And I have, like, as far as the tech, I understand it. The Shadowhunters are tasked with keeping humanity safe. And on that note, I never really understood why in the books they didn't advance with the times and get more technology. I mean, I know half of it is because they don't really communicate a lot with mundanes, but you don't really have to communicate that much, and I'm sure that they developed a lot of this tech, like the demon tracking stuff, on their own. The thing about this technology and everything is that it does not in any way replace those Shadowhunters. In the same way that, like, FBI and CIA technology doesn't replace field agents. I lost my train of thought. But it makes them more efficient, definitely, because they can keep an eye out for demonic activity, they can file reports, they can talk to each other, contact other institutes, they can have access to records and everything really fast, and I think it's something that's important to help them track and kill more demons in the city than they would have been able to without this kind of kind of technology. But like with the CIA, you've got a lot of technology that helps you keep track of and gain intel on people. But at the same time, you still the tech can't go out and kill people for you. It can't go out and kill demons for you. The tech is there to help you enhance your ability to go out and kill people. Nothing actually replaces a Shadowhunter's powers or their abilities, their instincts especially. So it can help them not really fight, but it helps them know what kind of fight they're getting into when they get to it. It helps them know like what has been reported, specific details. They have a grid of all the demon activity reported in the city, and so they can see it and kind of know what they're getting themselves into, which I think is really important to those Shadowhunters. So, the Shadowhunters, their main goal is to protect humans, and the technology really just helps that. It helps them be better at their job. It helps them be better at being Shadowhunters. So, really, I don't have a problem with it. I think it makes them bigger and better and more able to do their jobs more efficiently. But the tech doesn't mean that they're more connected to the outside world. They're not really more connected to mundane pop culture, which we see in episode 2. They're not saying that Isabel has an Instagram or something, or Jace doesn't even know what a C.I. Joe doll is. So they're not tuned into pop culture, and they're not tuned into mundane society. They're just using this technology that they now have access to be able to be better at their jobs. So, it really doesn't change that much of the story when you think about it, how different it is. It really doesn't change anything. The people thing, I know in the book series it was just Max, Isabel, Alec, Maris, Robert, Hodge, and Jace that lived at the Institute at the beginning. And to me, that never quite clicked, because New York City is a huge city, and it's one of the most, it's got a huge percentage of human population there. So, it makes sense that it's probably one of the largest institutes in existence. There's more people to protect, but there's also more demons, more downworlders. The fact in the books is that the only people that are left to protect the people of New York are traitors and their children. So even though New York is a huge place for global commerce and society, the only people that were protecting it were traitors and traitors' kids. But with the show, it's kind of different than that. You've got all these other Shadowhunters. I know one of the huge things about people complaining about the number of Shadowhunters is that in the books, there's part of the reason that Clave wants the Mortal Cup is they need to make more Shadowhunters or they're dying out. And my response to that is, yeah, in the book series, that's a huge thing. In the book series, that's a nice big plot in the book series, but this isn't the book series, it's a TV show. They might just not be going with that plot line, and that's perfectly okay. They can change whatever they want in this series, and it's still going to be Shadowhunters. Especially changing small things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to change the story, and if it does, it's just because I think a lot of people understand how changing some big things can change the story, but also changing small things can change the story and make it act as like a butterfly effect, so that something really small can change everything. And it makes you question, well, does that mean this is going to happen from the books or not? I need to watch the next week to find out. Which is huge in television. I know a lot of people don't like the new characters, Dot, who's based on Dorothea from the books, but she's a little bit different in the show. Clary describes her as basically her big sister in the show. She's really cool. I like Dot a lot, so I don't know why people don't like her. I liked that she had more to do with the story than she does in the book series. Dorothea, she's in the first book, and you never hear her name really again. And part of the thing when you're adapting into a TV series is you want to make everything important. Everything has some kind of part to play later on. And I think Dot they made her a bigger character that had more to do with the story to kind of justify bringing her character in at all. So I think they just made her more important, and they just made her more, like, relevant to the story. Captain Vargas was a necessary addition when they decided to make Luke a police officer, which I talk about later. I know people don't see her importance right now, but maybe that's because you've seen the first episode. You've maybe seen the first 2 episodes. There are things you don't know yet. There are things you haven't seen yet. This character might not be ridiculously important now, but hell, they could be a huge character later on. You don't know what's going to happen later in the series, is my point. So you can't really say it's not relevant because you do not know yet if it is or not. Like, I know with Vampire Diaries, Vampire Diaries, when they first introduced some of the characters like Vicky and Jeremy and Matt, I was just like, their characters aren't important in the pilot that much, really. You see them for maybe 5 seconds. You don't really see them for the first couple episodes. And then they're huge characters later in the series. Or their character makes a huge impact on the rest of the series, whether they're in it or not. You know, Vicky in Vampire Diaries dies in episode 7, maybe? I know it was really, really early on she died, but her death played a huge role in the entire series. And I think a lot of viewers are kind of worried because they're looking at the short term and not at the long term of the show, and that's something that's kind of more complicated with TV and film. With a film, you know by the end of the film you're going to have learned everything you need to know, and you're going to have, like, resolved everything that needs to be resolved. With a TV show, you never know if you're going to get that information or if it's ever going to be resolved. So, I mean, that's part of the reason you keep tuning in every week. Are they going to touch on this? Are they going to touch on this? Is this going to be bigger or smaller? We don't know. That's part of what keeps you tuning into a TV show. A huge thing I saw about the first episode was that it felt too rushed. The pacing seemed really fast. And I agree. I'm not going to deny that. But I like explaining it to people this way, is that the way Cassandra Clare's mythology works is you have to know so much of her mythology before you can really understand the story as a whole. So, for the writers, it was a choice between putting what they did, which was put as much exposition in the first couple of episodes as they could to get it out of the way so that the future episodes didn't have to have it, or they could put a little bit of exposition in every episode. But the problem with that is the amount of action, the amount of story they could get through in those first couple of episodes when they're trying to make it not as expositious, they won't be able to get through the amount of content they need to in those first few episodes because you won't know what's going on. And there's no way to know what's going on unless you've read the books, which is horrible for basically any kind of writing. If you have to read a book to know what's going on in a TV series or a movie, somebody that's writing did something very wrong, basically. So, I mean, they chose, it was a lose-lose situation with the exposition. They chose the one that wasn't going to put people to sleep. It was the one that required people to keep watching and understanding things. I'm reading my notes, by the way, and apparently my notes for all of this stuff is really, really... There's a lot of curse words. I don't understand. That's weird. Jocelyn telling Clary, I had this conversation a couple days ago with somebody on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, somewhere, that they were angry or didn't understand why Jocelyn told Clary so early, why she was the one who told Clary instead of letting Clary find out on her own. And my response was that I think the TV show goes a little bit further in characterizing Jocelyn. She's really protective of her daughter, and I think it's counterproductive for her once she realizes that she's putting her daughter in more danger than she is helping her, to keep going with the charade. I think Jocelyn realizes that she can't keep it going forever, and she's finally made that decision of, this is no longer helping my daughter, it's putting her in danger. I have to change my mind, and I have to, if anyone's going to tell her, I want it to be me. And I think that's why she wanted to tell her. She really wanted to keep her safe, and that became the best way for her to do it. So there's a lot of little changes like that that are really made for characterization points. Like Luke working at a police station, working as a cop instead of working at a bookstore, is a way to characterize him. In the books, he's a loyal person, he's protective, and that those qualities are present in a law enforcement officer. So, in the book, a lot of the characterization we get from Luke early on are of Clary's first-hand accounts of remembering him in her mind and her thinking about the past. The thing about TV shows and visual media like film is that you don't get to see into a character's mind. You have to find a visual way of characterizing a character. So instead of Clary saying, well, Luke's loyal, he's protective, I've known him since whenever, it's much easier to put him into a position of a character we generally already attribute some of those qualities to, in order to cut back on lines and story time and unnecessary dialogue. You finding visual media and symbols that help the audience get the exact same information is part of what makes filmmaking the medium it is. So I completely understand that change. I like it a lot more. It has a better potential for action, and it also has the better potential to bring in stories that you don't know from the books. It can bring in stories that you have no idea what's going to happen, which it does in the first season, from what I've read. I have no idea. Oh wow, that's a really long curse word. So this is one specific question, was why aren't they following the books? Okay. If you had pitched the idea, if anyone had pitched the idea to ABC Family at the time, now it's Freeform, if anyone had come to me as a producer and pitched, we're going to copy a book and put it on the screen, I would have laughed you out of my office. Because that does nothing for my ratings, that does nothing for my TV network. I need to know how you're going to transform something so that it's not the exact same story, so people tune in every week so that I actually get money off of it. Speaking from a producer's standpoint. So, keeping the show exactly like the books, it wouldn't have gotten past the pitching stage. It wouldn't have gotten written into a good pilot. The pilot never would have been made. There would never have been a first full season order. And it absolutely would not, any circumstances, get picked up for a second season. That is just how it works. I've explained in another video before how TV ratings work, and I'll put that in the description when I post this on YouTube. But with TV ratings, if you don't have people tuning in live every week and watching every week, then your show isn't gonna do well. It's not going to get enough ratings, and it's not going to survive until the second part of a season. or the second season. So if I can go to a book and look and see what's going to happen next week, I have no urge to watch it next week. Because I know what's going to happen. Sure, I'll go back and watch the episode, but on Netflix, or I'll download it or something, because I have no urge, no absolute need to watch it live, so that I can find out what happens before somebody else spoils it for me. Because the book's already out there, it's already been spoiled for me. You know, so it's not possible to keep everything from the books. And that's what I say for like pretty much all of these changes. Every change I attribute that to, especially the plot changes, and the things, the new characters, the new stories they're adding, the things they're cutting. It's to make you keep tuning in to see what they've changed. Which is it's also the same way movies make their money, is you go to see a movie, half of the people that go see a movie adaptation are there to see how much they screwed it up. But hey, your ticket is still the same as somebody who goes to see it for a good movie. So it works the same way, but on a much larger scale. They have to change so much more. I actually did see this question like 3 times the night of the pilot, or the premiere. And that was why Malik wasn't in the show yet. For just some reference, we're in chapter... Yeah, the book... Damn, there we go. Episode 2 is mostly chapters 5 through 10 from City of Bones. Of course, it's very changed. There's a lot of stuff missing and changed. But that's basically where that source material is coming from. Magnus and Alec don't meet. First of all, you don't meet Magnus Bane until chapter 11, 12. And that's when Alec and Magnus meet. So at the earliest, they would meet in episode 3. They moved a couple of stories around because they have to move the story around so that they have an episodic structure and a new story for each week. Where it's moving the story along, but it's also got a story within that episode that has a beginning, middle, and end in that one episode. So they've switched Magnus and Alec first meeting with Simon getting kidnapped, which is going to be episode 3. So Malik is coming in episode 4. But, I mean, people are... I like seeing this because it's funny to me that there are complaints that the show is moving too fast and bringing stuff in too early, but at the same time, the same people are angry that certain things haven't happened yet. Like, Isabel and Simon haven't made out yet, and Magnus and Alec haven't met yet, and I'm like, that's about the pacing of the book, actually. I don't understand where your argument comes from for that. So, Malik is coming. You just can't... It's not the central story of the books or the TV series. You gotta get there. Isabel's clothing and portrayal. I'm seeing this a lot. And it's very confusing to me because I always want to say to those people, have you read the books? Because Isabel in the show reminds me 100% of Isabel in the books. That's how I always pictured her. I know Cassandra Clare has said that Isabel wasn't very slutty in the books. She didn't have that kind of clothing in the books. But, I mean, you can go back in the books and, like, look at what she wears and look at the way Clary describes her, and it's very strikingly similar to how she's portrayed in the show. I don't think her clothes are degrading because they're done on her terms. They're not somebody saying you should dress this way. She's not dressing that way to impress men. She's dressing that way because she's comfortable with her body and she likes it. That's what she wants to do. So I don't understand how anybody can say, well, she shouldn't dress like that. Because then you get into the area of slut shaming. She likes her body. It's how she likes dressing. She's not doing it for anybody else. It's not degrading. That's Isabel. She's comfortable with herself. That's a good thing. I don't understand. Anyway, that's one of the arguments I don't understand. Isabel to me is one of the best casts and the best portrayals in the show. So you'll never like find a friend in me and somebody who agrees with you in me when you're talking about Isabel being really slutty. because to me, she's exactly the same as she is in the books. I guess we actually did read different books, because I'm getting that about a lot of different characters, like people saying Alberto is nothing like Simon, Matt's nothing like Alec. I seriously do think we read different book series for some people who have talked to me. I saw this one a couple times, including on a big Mortal Instruments website, which made me really angry because they're not supporting the TV show. They're ripping it apart, and it pisses me off. And that was, why is Valentine in Chernobyl? Wow, I don't know. It's almost like you're not supposed to find everything out in the pilot. Maybe there's some actual reason in the story that they've created that he needs to be there. Or maybe it's because nobody would look in that place because it's fucking radiation poisoning. Maybe because it's the only place he could go where he couldn't be tracked by the clave. Maybe radiation screws with the clave's tracking spells. I don't know. You aren't supposed to know yet. I don't understand why you're angry for not knowing when you're not supposed to know this information yet. Like, why? Well, I don't know yet. Why don't you keep watching the show to find out? Next, we're going into the script and talking about the script. I'll be the first to say, I make fun of the dialogue in the scripts, especially the first couple of episodes, a lot. But not just because some of it's really corny dialogue, but just because how similar some of the bad dialogue is to being straight from the book. I think people are kind of forgetting that a lot of this dialogue is either straight from the book, or it is exactly something that would come out of one of the book characters' mouths. I think that's one of my favorite things about this, is that even though the dialogue is not fantastic, it's funny because it's straight from the book. For me, I like the scripts, and I'm going to say this for acting, just individual actors, but also acting in the group, special effects, and 90% of the creative aspects of the show. With the pilot, the actors had just met, the team was just getting used to each other, the writers had never worked together before. And so they had to get used to each other's styles, how each other worked, how they wanted the story to go. And also they had to deal with all that freaking exposition that they had to get rid of and put in there. And they're just like, well, let's put it in the pilot. We don't want to keep dragging this on. Let's put it in the pilot and get it over with. So not only were the writers getting used to themselves, they also hadn't met the actors when they were writing the scripts. The original pilot script. They hadn't met the actors. The actors hadn't been cast yet. So they wrote these for the characters. As the time goes on, the writers are going to be more comfortable with those actors and what sounds natural coming out of their mouths, what sounds ridiculous. They're gonna fall into their groove really fast of what works and what doesn't work for the series. But, it's just like when you're in a group project. I mean, expecting a perfect pilot is like expecting people to... Basically, it's expecting your professor to write up what you're supposed to do for a final project, getting your group who've never met each other together, and then expecting a perfect project presentation the next day. Yes, they've had time to work on this, but they haven't just been working on the pilot. They've been working on all 13 episodes. So, I mean, the pilot was bound to be not as perfect as later episodes, just because they didn't know each other at the time. They have to get comfortable with each other, just like you have to get comfortable when you meet people before you can really talk to them and understand them. So, I mean, that's what I say about the script and the dialogue, the acting, special effects, directing, cinematography. I can keep going about everything, but a lot of the creative aspects, they are still getting used to each other, and so that's what I attribute that to. I love how all of these are general. These are generals. Let's just go through these. this, these are just like hypotheticals that I keep hearing. Blank has to happen because it happens in the books. No. This has to happen because it's huge in the books. Nope. They can't work this story without this plotline. No. They aren't sticking to the books. Good. And let me explain. Good because the books are a print medium that has already been made. They're not making it again. The Mortal Instruments has already been made. The Mortal Instruments is a print medium. It's a book that has already been made. It is something you can go ahead and go buy on your shelves. If you want the Mortal Instruments, it has already been made. It's already out there. This is a new medium. It's a film medium, and it's its own identity. You really need to get over, if that's, I understand being protective of it because I love the Mortal Instruments. I've been in love with it since like high school. I understand being protective of it, but those really protective book purist fans really need to get over saying things like, you can't change blank 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 because it's in the book. You really need to get over that right now if you're ever gonna, if you don't get over it right now, get used to the fact that you're gonna be disappointed with every episode. Because they can change whatever the actual fuck they want, because it's a TV series, and it's not the Mortal Instruments. It's based on the Mortal Instruments, but it itself is not the Mortal Instruments. It's a TV series about a young girl being drawn into a hidden world she didn't know existed, just like the book series. But the events that happen are not going to be the exact same. And if you expect them to be the exact same, or even, like, really that similar, then you're going, then you need to already be set up for disappointment. This is also a favorite of mine. That's not how it works. And yet it is. Look, it just happened. That's not how the Seraph Blade works. Well, that's how he just used it. Apparently it's how it works. It's like in Supernatural, you wouldn't say that putting a circle of salt around a demon wouldn't let them escape. Or wouldn't keep them inside. That's the story's mythology, right? This is this story's mythology. Just because it's not the same from the books doesn't mean it's not true. You just saw it happening. And it's the same with the other stuff of, that's not how you pronounce it. And yet it is. And considering the characters are the ones who actually live in that world and who have grown up pronouncing it, I think they'd know. And, you know, like, that's not how that's supposed to happen. And yet, it's what happened. That never happened in the book. That's nice. It doesn't change the fact that it happened here. Oh my god, these are great. Insert anything can't insert anything. If it just did, then it just did. If it just happened, then it happened. And it can't happen because it just happened. If it just happened, then it can happen in the show universe, which does not have to be verbatim from the book universe. It's the show's rules, not the books, because only what happens in the show matters to what can happen and what can't happen in the show. So, oh god, I like this one. I wrote these 3 days ago, so I have no idea what I wrote. This is nothing like the books. They've changed too much. Okay, I'm sorry. I think you're confused. What you're searching for, you can't find on a television screen. You can find it on a bookshelf, probably yours, or maybe if you don't actually have the books on a bookshelf, you can find one on. You can find it online. You can find it on a bookshelf at a bookstore. But what you're not looking for is a TV series. The TV series isn't the Mortal Instruments. The Mortal Instruments is a book that you can go buy. It's already been written. The TV series hasn't been written yet. It seems you're a little bit confused because you think that they need to be the same thing, or at least that they should be, but they're not. Is my general that is how I feel every time somebody tells me this can't happen. They're changing too much. Changing too much from what? They took a book medium and they're adapting it. They're transforming it into their own show. It's the same world, but it's different events. you knew this when they started making it. You know, this isn't the first time a book has been turned into a TV show. Vampire Diaries was based on a book series too. It's one of CW's best shows. But if you go reading the books, try and figure out what's going to happen in the show, you're going to discover that Vampire Diaries and the original books are two completely different stories that don't even really exist in the same universe. We got lucky with how much they kept from the Mortal Instruments. We got about as lucky as Pretty Little Liars did. And they're adapting it in about the same way, which is they keep a lot of the characterization, they change a couple of things, and they keep a lot of the major plot points, but they adapt it in such a way that they don't let you know which plot points they're going to keep. So every time they keep one, even though you've already read the books, you're surprised. And that's pretty much what's happening with Shadowhunters. Shadowhunters is keeping so much more than they need to. And I think a lot of fans are forgetting that. So, those are my comments on the entire thing. If you have more questions, you can ask them on my Periscope, because I'm doing this live, and I'll obviously put it up on the video and show which ones, what questions are asking. So if you guys have questions, or more comments, or more concerns about what got changed, you know, chat me up, message me, because it makes sense to me a lot. It's just, I mean, I don't understand how a lot of the hate that's coming in for the Mortal Instruments, or Shadowhunters. I think Shadowhunters is doing so well compared to other book to TV adaptations. I think they're keeping a lot more than they had to. I think the series itself is turning out so well, and I think it's going to be basically Pretty Little Liars' replacement on Freeform as their big show. I think it's just going to be the show to watch. And I think a couple years from now, when we're in season 3, we're still screaming at the fact that they brought Sebastian in without letting us know they were going to bring him in. And we're going to go back and watch the pilot and binge watch before the season finale. And we're going to laugh because the early episodes, we had to go through all this. We're going to laugh and look back at this and say, do you remember that time when they complained about this being changed? I mean, it is as ridiculous as it sounds. Some of the complaints for Shadowhunters are absolutely as ridiculous as they sound. So, just, you know, keep that in mind. It's not a book series. Book series always been written. This is a TV series. But, I'm gonna go finish rewatching and live blogging the pilot again. And I hope you guys keep watching Shadowhunters. You've got a lot of stuff, having read the sides, the audition sides and everything, you've got a lot of awesome stuff coming up this season. And you don't want to let, you know, you being a butthurt keep you from enjoying that. So, keep watching. I hope you guys like it. If not, then just keep your hate to yourself, because honestly, none of the fandom wants to hear it. From experience, none of the fandom really cares. Bye.